Hello, and welcome to A Beginner's Guide to La Traviata. So La Traviata was composed by Giuseppe Verdi in Italian. In terms of style, I have found that Verdi's operas cannot be defined by one particular style. His work contains longer and grander and more lyrical lines that you would find in Romantic era composition, but it also contains wonderful opportunities for coloratura, as you would have found in the bel canto style that was very popular before he started composing. So the meeting of these two great operatic styles, for me, is what makes Verdi's work so compelling, so enthralling, and so popular with audiences. So what is La Traviata about? La Traviata is about Violetta Valéry returning to Paris society after a brief hiatus. She's determined to ignore her lingering illness and to make the most of Paris society and her reputation as an incredible high-class courtesan. And we see this desire taking shape at a marvelous party that she throws for herself upon her re-entrance. However, Alfredo Germont has been in love with Violetta for over a year, and he finally works up the courage to tell her exactly that at this party. The question of the entire opera after that becomes, will Violetta and Alfredo find their happily ever after, or will illness or family or jealousy work to poison their joy? It's based on the novel by Alexandre Dumas Fil, and the novel was entitled La Dame aux Camélias, or The Lady of the Camellias, which was semi-autobiographical of his relationship with the courtesan Marie Duplessis. This novel also inspired the play Camille, which was incredibly popular throughout the 19th and early 20th century. And it also helped inspire the film Moulin Rouge. So if you love Moulin Rouge, I would recommend La Traviata as one of your first opera entrees if you're new to the genre. It's a relatively small opera. It really centers around three main characters: Violetta, Alfredo, and Alfredo's father. There are, of course, the odd minor character who factors in, and there are large parts available for the chorus to participate in. But by and large, it really focuses on those three main characters. And as I said earlier, there are many elements of the bel canto style, as we discussed in my video about Il Barbiere di Siviglia, since Verdi's work bridged the gap between the bel canto and the lyric styles. In terms of major musical moments, Violetta gets most of the big numbers, let's be honest. That's why Violetta is any soprano's dream role. The first major moment, which everyone will probably recognize, is called Libiamo, or sometimes called Brindisi, because it is a drinking song. It's a toast that Alfredo composes on the spot at Violetta's party. I've linked two different productions of it down below, one from the 2014 Glyndebourne production and one from the 2018 production from the Metropolitan Opera. The first thing you notice about this piece is that it's a waltz, very much like other drinking songs, but it could also be danced to, which makes it the perfect song for a party. And although it claims to be a toast, because it's being composed on the spot, Brindisi gives Violetta and Alfredo the opportunity to really spar with each other and trade perspectives on love and life and their priorities. So of course they can show off their mutual love and joie de vivre, but it also gives them the opportunity to perhaps become a little bit vulnerable. This, of course, varies from production to production, but I love to see when an actor, particularly the actress playing Violetta, lets in that little bit of vulnerability. Of course, all of this dialogue or repartee type composition feels very much like Shakespearean banter, which makes it extra fun. And you can see an entire relationship developing out of this one moment. Don't be fooled, however. However bubbly and exciting and flirty Libiamo may sound, the stakes are high. Violetta knows that the decision she makes about Alfredo can change the course of her entire life. The question always is, does Alfredo know this though? That's why it's always interesting to observe how the tenor plays that role. Does he know how high the stakes are for Violetta if she decides to let herself fall in love with him? From Libiamo, Violetta and Alfredo talk further, and he further presses his case, and this leads into the perfect moment when Violetta is finally left alone and can think about everything that has happened. And this is where her first big moment occurs, the aria Sempre Libera. And I have linked a version for you to listen to. This is from the recent 2020 production from the Teatro Real in Madrid, starring Lisette Oropesa. This aria really shows the fallout of Brindisi or Libiamo's high stakes that we talked about. And it shows all of the different decisions that are flashing through Violetta's mind through a very unique style. Verdi is most noted for his double aria style. What does this mean? This means that it starts off with a more slow, reflective section called the cavatina. And this begins with Violetta's lines, "Ah, forse lui che l'anima." Then there's some sort of a transition, which is usually some sort of recitativo or dialogue type structure, where something happens to change the scene. We receive news that changes the situation, or the character has a change of heart. And this can be heard when Violetta speaks the lines "follia, follia," folly, folly. It's not news that she receives, and it's not exactly a change of heart, although again, this may vary on how each singer plays it. But to me, it's an injection of reality. It's her realizing the stakes of her illness and her potentially losing her situation in life and going, what am I thinking? Of course this won't work. The last section is a much faster and more emotional section called the cabaletta. And this shows the fallout, either the decision that has been made or the change of emotion that has happened because of the change in the transition. And this is where we hear her actually sing the title of the aria, Sempre Libera. I was always free to do what I wanted. But even so, when I watch these scenes, and again, it will vary from production to production, I don't always see that Violetta's decision has entirely been made yet. And it's always interesting to me to see how much the singer is playing it as though Violetta is convincing herself of something. Always use the acting question, is this character telling the truth? And if not, why not? How much are they lying to themselves or to others? And why are they doing it? And to me, the heavy coloratura, the massive vocal tricks and trips and grace notes and runs show the weight of her emotions, that sometimes she's wavering, sometimes it can sound like laughter, sometimes it can sound like joy that she's imagining for herself. But here again, where is she telling the truth? And this opera truly tests every soprano who sings it as to how to emotionally charge each of those sections. And to me, this aria still stands the test of time today, as so many women, so many working women, feel as though they need to give something up, that they need to choose between a career and a family. Then there's also the question of independence versus dependence. And is being vulnerable to someone else really worth it? The second major moment for Violetta that I can tell you about without spoilers is the very short section known as Amami Alfredo, Love Me Alfredo. I have linked a clip down below for you to watch from a production from the Metropolitan Opera starring Michael Fabiano and Sonia Yoncheva. It opens with a recitative, it opens with dialogue-like singing, but because Violetta is making, again, a very emotionally charged decision, a very difficult decision, her words are stilted and short due to her nerves, her emotions, the lies that she's having to tell, and that really comes across in the way that the music forces her to sing it. And here again, her emotions become more and more frantic during the bridge or the transition section until finally we hear the words Amami Alfredo, which opens into the love theme, follows through the entire opera. And I can't tell you more than this, but there are many, many double meanings in everything that she says in this aria, which make it even more poignant. And the last major moment from La Traviata that I can highlight for you is Violetta's final major aria, Addio del passato, or Goodbye to the Past. And here again, I have linked a version for you to listen to. This is Lisette Oropesa singing it in the recent 2020 production from Teatro Real. This was a particularly special moment for her because it includes a bis, or an encore. And this marked two very special moments. First of all, it was the first time that a woman had received a bis, or an encore, at the Teatro Real ever. And secondly, it was Lisette Oropesa's first time back on stage after the COVID epidemic. This was a socially distanced production. And thirdly, it was Lisette Oropesa's first time ever being asked for a bis, or an encore. In this scene, Violetta's illness has gotten worse. She is dying, and she knows it. And there has also been a breakdown in her relationship with Alfredo, and she has lost all hope. And you can hear her illness in the music. It's slower, it's heavier, there's more of a plodding sound to it because you can feel it's getting harder for her to breathe. It's also set in a minor key because she has lost all hope. It's almost the antithesis of Sempre Libera that we heard from her at the beginning. Before she celebrated all of the opportunities that lay before her in what was left of her life, and now there is nothing. The only time we hear her switch to a major key, and here again it takes us aback, but it's still quite poignant, is when she addresses herself to God and asks him to take this sinner back to him, because that is her only hope now, is to be taken to heaven. There's nothing left for her on this earth. Here again, there are no subtitles, but I have also linked to a libretto page so you can read along with the lyrics while you listen. And that's all I can tell you about without spoilers. I can't tell you how it ends or how the characters move between these moments. You have to check it out for yourself. If you are inspired to check out this opera yourself, I would recommend several versions to you. I would first of all recommend the Glyndebourne production from 2014 starring Michael Fabiano as Alfredo and Venera Gimadieva as Violetta. I would also recommend the 2014 Metropolitan Opera production starring Michael Fabiano and Sonia Yoncheva. If you can manage to see one of the recorded versions of the 2020 production from Teatro Real, I would highly encourage you to do so. I don't know if it's still available, but it is very unique in that it was socially distanced so that all of the singers could participate, but still remain safe, and the audience could remain safe during the pandemic. And it had two amazing rotating casts, one starring Michael Fabiano. You may have realized that I rather like Michael Fabiano. And the other starring Lisette Oropesa, who is an incredible soprano. So let me know down below, are you inspired to watch La Traviata? Have you watched it and loved it? Tell me your thoughts, tell me your concerns, tell me everything. I would love to talk with you more about opera. And until next time, be safe, be well, and happy listening. Bye everyone.